Mr. Ambassador, thank you for seeing us today.
Thank you for approaching me.
We asked our readers on Facebook to send us questions about the Israeli elections, and we've had a lot of questions coming in, so I'll ask you some of them here today.
Go ahead.
We have first Richard, who is wondering: politics seem to be locked in a difficult position of compromises, leaving no one satisfied, and the trend seems to be continuing on and on. Why can't a working situation that a majority is happy with be found?
Well, I think this is a description of politics anywhere, not only in Israel. This is the character of politics. It's, it's tricky, it's complicated, and I think we're not different in any other democratic country. Although we are younger than traditional long-standing democracies in Europe or in the States, I think we are very solid in that, and Israelis are very opinionated, and we have things to say, and we stand for our rights. So you end up having a kind of a polarization in between opinions, but I think it's a fruitful type of social behavior.
We have another question here from Elisabeth, who is wondering: in Swedish elections there are always discussions about taxes. How come I do not hear so much about taxes in the Israeli debate?
Well, there are. I'm not sure that the discussions in the campaigns of the different parties during the campaign time for the elections, there are discussions about taxes. I'm not sure that it receives the coverage worldwide, but anyway, when it comes to Israel compared to Sweden, I think our regional circumstantial situation brings about dealing with more crucial and sometimes existential subjects, like how would we deal with the Palestinians, with the Egyptians, with the Syrians, but the whole spring nowadays, and in the past some other threats that we had, but as a whole it is dealing with some crucial things that other countries do not have to confront altogether. So of course this sometimes overshadows other normal and regular subjects like taxes.
In a time with so many security challenges, is there time for also focusing on environmental issues and challenges?
Well, I think this is something we are doing very well in Israel. As we all know, Israel is a democracy even before it came into being. I mean, even the decision-making as to the declaration of the independence of the State of Israel was taken in a democratic procedure. So we learned how to deal with conflicts, name it as you wish, and to do anything done elsewhere normally. In other words, to ignore the situation and do the normal things done in other places, and deal with the situation as an abnormal subject. Each one gives his 3 years of service as a man or 2 as a woman, and this is the time devoted by part of the population at any given moment, and we do both things, and fortunately enough, quite successfully.
Another question here from Håkan. Both Sweden and Israel are innovative countries. My belief is that Sweden should concentrate more on how innovation could solve unemployment. Is innovation as a way of reducing unemployment discussed in Israel? And if it is, how?
Well, I think Israel discussed it much earlier than Sweden. And the government took measures, steps, and intervened in this matter, injecting governmental resources. And we see the results in Israel. We don't name it so often and so much as innovation linked to labor places and work for more people, but the result is obvious. When we started with this procedure, I think we talked about it a little more. But here in Sweden, the linkage is very obvious. Innovation leads to more labor, more working places. I think it makes sense. I think it's a logical thing that happened in Israel, since we are dealing with it so many years. The governmental intervention in this field in Israel is a long-standing thing. So we see results already, and not a year, 2 or 3. It's a long-term policy, a very successful one, and I'm sure it will succeed in Sweden as well.
And to the last question, why are there so many parties in Israel?
Oh, that's a punchline. I think most of the parties in Israel would agree that the electoral system is not functioning properly. Most of the, at least the big parties, the big players, do understand that there should be some changes introduced into this system. The question is how and when will this take place? But no doubt, too many parties, and comparing to Sweden, it's a double problem. Too many parties, almost a double in the present parliament. We have 14 parties, comparing to 8 in Sweden, but we have almost the third number of seats in the parliament, 120, comparing to 349 in Sweden. So the ratio is even more terrible than it sounds. We have the third number of seats divided into 14. You have the triple divided into 8. So the situation is really quite not comfortable. Everybody knows it, and I hope it will be dealt during this coming new parliament and government, because most players in the Israeli politics do agree that something should be done.
Okay, thank you very much for taking the time to answer some questions. And if we have any more questions coming in on our Facebook page, maybe we'll see each other next week as well.
My pleasure.